Trifonic. It's been a little while since the last update, and I promise I'll do some more tutorials on native instruments, massive. But today I'm going to talk about making pads using a Spectral plugin called Spectral Dronemaker, and it's a free plugin by Michael Norris for Mac OS X. So one thing in Trifonic that I like to do is, if I can, to either reuse sounds or make new sounds out of old sounds, because when you have to do things quickly, then it's hard to reinvent the wheel every time. So it's nice if you can generate material out of old material or things that are already done. So what I've got here is a little example. This is a remix we did for Hybrid pretty recently for their track Can You Hear Me? So I'll just play a short excerpt of that, and then I'll show you how I can make a pad out of this. What I can do is, with this Spectral Dronemaker, I can turn this into a pad. So I'll show you what that sounds like, and then I'll show you how it's done. So any Spectral plugin is usually using a process known as FFT, which stands for Fast Fourier Transform. Any complex waveform can be broken down into simpler sine wave components. So what's happening is that this plugin is analyzing the audio that's coming into it, and then dividing it up into a number of different frequency bands, and they call those bands bins. So in this case, there's 2048 bins, and then it can resynthesize those frequency bins, and you can do things like manipulate the bins individually, that sort of thing. That's what spectral processing is. So in the case of Spectral Dronemaker, what it's doing is it's taking a sample of the bins at a certain moment in time, and then you choose its interpolation length, and then it will take a sample of the bins, in this case 4 seconds later, and then it will interpolate, or sort of morph between those two states. Here's what that sounds like just with the default settings on the remix. So pretty noisy sound, maybe not that useful, not too easy to fit into most contexts, and it also, the volume kind of builds up with everything being smeared. Fortunately, there's a gate here where it will only let through the loudest frequencies, so the loudest harmonics. So I could set this to -23 so dB, and that will only let through the sort of strongest frequencies in the song. So let's hear what that sounds like. So that sounds pretty good, but it doesn't have much of the texture or the sort of sonic characteristic of the original track, and that's mainly because this FFT size is pretty small. So I could set this to something much larger, like 32,768. So it's going to be splitting, when it analyzes the incoming audio, it's going to be splitting it into 32,000 bands instead of 2,000. So that's actually a pretty nice drone. That makes a pretty nice pad. And then there's other parameters in here where we can modify it. So there's this comb filter bank which will harmonize the incoming audio. So you can adjust its level so that it's in there. You can adjust the fundamental frequency of the comb filter. You can also adjust what scale it's going to harmonize. So there's Dorian scale, which is a mode of the major scale, or I could have it just be in octaves or fifths. So I'll choose octaves here. And if I want to adjust the brightness, I can increase the brightness a little bit. Flanger amount. This low bin cutoff basically will cut out some of the low frequencies. High bin cutoff will cut out some of the high frequencies. So we'll just cut out a small percentage of the low frequencies. So we can get a nice pad with that, and then if we wanted to add more movement, we could do things like add auto filter, delay, things like that. So, and that's how I built that original example. That's how you can make a pad out of an existing track using Spectral Dronemaker.